All right, 11:01, here we are, the second week of our second quarter. So that is week 10. Here's what we have on tap for this week. So, number one, I'm going to be getting back your MLA research essays this week, as it is the second week of the turnaround time for the grading period. So, you'll be getting those back in the first half of this week. Most likely, you'll be getting back your actual grade according to the rubric, and then I'm going to go back and individually add the blog bonus points based on each contribution to each week's blog. Okay, so the grade you see initially isn't necessarily your complete grade. That's going to come after I finish grading the entire class's MLA research essays. I'll go back and individually add the blog bonus points to each essay. Okay, and then that'll be your official grade. Okay, so moving into our next mode of discourse is in section 3.3 in our SCC textbook, and that is called classification and division. So it's really important to understand this tool, this mode of discourse, because we live in a very complex society, a complex world, and you can't take all of this in, all of reality in at once, okay? So you have to kind of individuate the different aspects of life in order to understand them more comprehensively. So dividing and classifying, as you all probably well enough know by now, is really a necessary step in understanding the world better, okay? Because the world, people, places, conversations, activities don't come at us, well, maybe they do come at us all in one rush. But what we have to do is tease out the component parts of whatever that thing is, that activity, that conversation, that interaction, in order to understand it. Okay, that's what it means to be a human being. That's how we make sense of our world, making our world a little more manageable by compartmentalizing, classifying, and dividing. So there's only two exercises you have to do in SCC. I believe exercise 7 gives you a list of concepts or topics, and it asks you to classify or divide, offer sort of sub-classifications for each of those things. So number one is, I believe, if memory serves me correct, or I can just look. I have the textbook right in front of me. I believe it is the United States is the first topic that is given to you. Yes, so for example, here it is, exercise 7. On a separate sheet of paper, break the following categories into smaller classifications. So the United States, that's a big concept, okay? It's a huge country, one of the largest population-wise and land-wise in the entire world. So how would you break that concept down, the United States, into more fragmented, more easily digestible parts? I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. The United States, okay. And then there's colleges and universities, beverages, and fashion. After that, exercise 8 asks you to write a brief paragraph explaining why you chose to organize each main category in the way that you did. So as you're doing number 7, you have to be conscious of the way in which you are deciding to break these concepts down, because exercise 8 asks you to reflect on that organizing principle that you decided to go with. So just exercises 7 and 8 in 3.3 classification. Remember, the modes of discourse that we're doing for the second quarter, you're not going to have an essay. So that's a relief. Okay, so you don't have a classification essay to write. What we're going to focus on with the essays in this second quarter is revising each of your first quarter essays. So our first revision is going to be narrative, your narrative essay, and that's going to be due at the end of next week. I had intended it to be due this week, but I want to kind of space it out a little more because we have a couple of assignments this week anyway. So what you could do this week, a good idea after you do your assignments, the SCC and the reader assignment, which I'll get to in just a moment, is probably go back and look over your narrative, see where you struggled, what you kind of fumbled on, and maybe take notes, come to me, email me, look at your rubric score, how you might improve, and you have to do a revised essay. It's going to be a class homework grade. So getting a 0 on these 4 revisions sprinkled out throughout the second quarter here is not going to do you any favors. So now's the time this week to sort of get an understanding of how you can improve for your revised version due next week. And you're going to get, if you do all of the things, you retool, you fix everything that needed to be retooled or fixed, you will be awarded half credit back. So let's say you got a 76 on that narrative essay. Well, if you revise it and correct it according to the rubric score, my comments, consulting with me via email this week, you'll get half credit back. So that is going to be an 88. A 76 becomes an 88. So a pretty high solid C becomes an even more high, even more solid B, like almost basically in the B plus range, okay? So, and then what I'll do is I will average together the 88 and the 76, and that'll give you an overall score of 82 in that case, if my math is correct, I believe so. So we're going to do our first one next week, revising our narrative. But for this week, your SEC, which I just described, you also have a reader selection. Okay, so go into our reader, and or you could just go to the discussion forum that I've provided in our Week 10 folder. I've given you the link to the essay that's in our reader. It might actually be a little easier to access it via the discussion forum that is in Week 10. So when you go to Week 10, you will see our SEC assignment that I just described, and then our discussion forum. And it is on an essay entitled, "Is There a Formula for a Good Book?" by Jason Heller. Click on the discussion link and then click Create Thread. Once you have clicked Create Thread, you will see the forum description, the instructions, and the link for the essay. Okay, so this essay is in our readers classification division section. Okay, so this will be our reader example for classification and division. So all you have to do is read the essay, and then I give you 2 pretty broad general questions for the discussion forum. Number 1, what is Heller's, the writer of the article, what is his thesis or main idea? Okay, he has a point he is trying to get across. Okay, and then number 2, do you agree or disagree with his thesis? On what grounds? Okay, just kind of reflect on the title here. Is there a formula for a good book? Take it or leave it, like it or not. I think it's just a fact. People don't read anymore. Okay, I don't mean that to be some indictment of society or you all or me, but people don't read anymore. We live in a really fast-paced society. We want things now. Got to be now, digestible. Give me what I need to know. Okay, the heck with all this 1,000-page novel BS. Okay, just give me what I need to know and let me get on with my day. So nobody reads books, okay, but people watch movies, people watch television shows, okay, so maybe plug that into the title and think about it that way. Is there a formula for a good movie, television show, play, musical, dramatization, whatever it might be? Is there a formula for it? Okay, the word formula kind of connotes or suggests that there is a science behind an artistic production, a book, film, piece of music, television show, etc. We don't tend to think of artistic productions in that sort of scientific, using that sort of scientific lens of analysis. So it's a pretty interesting read in that way, okay? So I'm curious what you all have to say about what Mr. Heller has found and what he has to say about the subject as well. No journal, no blog this week. The only 2 things you have to do this week: the discussion forum on the essay I just described, and the SEC exercises 7 and 8. That is section 3.3, classification, and that's it. And another thing, good idea to do is look at your old narrative, see where you can improve, because that is going to be due a revised version at the end of next week. Okay, so folks, that's all I have for us today for this week. I wish you all a successful second week of the second quarter. We are at week 10, so I will check back in with you next week. See you then.